Happy anniversary, failure, my fiancée texted after leaving me at the hospital. I sold her engagement ring and emptied our wedding fund. Now their perfect life has shattered. I never imagined that at 28, I'd be lying alone in a hospital bed, feeling like my entire world was dissolving into nothing. As the nurse adjusted my IV, I couldn't believe what I was seeing on my phone screen. The nurse gave me that practiced, sympathetic smile and said, "Your fiancée called, she won't be coming in today." "Won't be coming," I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. "That's not possible. She promised she'd be here. We're getting married next month." I showed her the text message thread, but she just pressed her lips together. "I'm sorry, Mr. Collins. Sometimes people can't handle illness. Do you have anyone else we can call?" I felt my chest constrict. No warning, no real explanation, nothing. "She's known about my diagnosis for 3 weeks," I said, my voice cracking with each word. What changed overnight? The only person who had access to our wedding plans was Eliza. This recovery period, this temporary setback, was supposed to be our last hurdle. We had been planning for months, saying how after the surgery we would finally start our perfect life together. Paris was the honeymoon destination, and I was supposed to be the luckiest man alive. At first, when they found the tumor, I wasn't that scared. Another medical challenge didn't sound insurmountable to me, but after everything we'd overcome together, I thought this could strengthen our bond even more. She had been there for every appointment, saying this was a test of our love, that she would be my rock through treatment and recovery. But now, on the day after my surgery, she was gone, and it was clear she couldn't handle the reality. I struggled to sit up in bed and pulled out my phone, trying to reach her again. I didn't expect her parents to respond, so I went straight to Eliza. She always kept her phone close. I texted her. "Hey, the nurse says you called. Is everything okay? I really need you right now." I waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The machines around me beeped steadily, and the antiseptic smell started to make my stomach turn. Finally, my phone buzzed. I opened the message, expecting some explanation or an apology. Instead, the message from Eliza read, "Happy anniversary, failure." For a moment, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe she'd sent it to the wrong person. But the more I stared at it, the more I realized this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't even a cruel joke. She was doing this deliberately. My heart trembling, the moment stretched impossibly long. I felt a wave of anguish rise in my chest. After everything I had sacrificed for her, helping with her student loans, financing her startup business, buying her a custom-designed engagement ring worth 3 months of my salary just last year, she was still abandoning me at my lowest point. I had worked through countless nights to give her the life she wanted, to be the devoted partner she claimed to need, but this was the final betrayal. I couldn't believe how callous she was, all the promises she had made about standing by me in sickness and in health, but I never thought she'd leave when those vows were truly tested. I gritted my teeth through the pain and typed a reply. "There's a surprise waiting for you when you check our accounts." My phone immediately lit up with calls from Eliza. I declined each one with bitter satisfaction. She wanted to destroy me at my weakest? Fine, I'd show her what destruction really looked like. Over the next few days, while I recovered in that sterile hospital room, I systematically dismantled every bit of our shared future. I started with the engagement ring, the $18,000 custom-designed piece I'd commissioned with stones from my grandmother's heirloom collection. She'd been showing it off all over Instagram, posting weekly photos and tagging luxury wedding accounts with hashtags about her perfect man. The ring was still legally mine until marriage, and I knew exactly who to call. My cousin Aiden worked at an exclusive jewelry boutique and had connections with private collectors. One call to him from my hospital bed, and the arrangement was made. He offered to handle everything discreetly, even sending someone to retrieve the ring from our apartment while Eliza was at her daily yoga class. I made sure they took the matching wedding band I'd already purchased, the one with the inscription she hadn't seen yet. Let her come home to an empty jewelry box. Every memory crashed against me. Fragments of what we were, what we could have been. Next came our wedding fund, our supposed future together. I'd been watching her make withdrawals for months, $700 for wedding research, that somehow always involved spa treatments, $1,200 for venue visits that coincided with girls' weekends, $3,000 for catering tastings that never seemed to include me. She'd taken advantage of my trust for the last time. Using my phone and a digital signature, I transferred every cent, all 62,476.33 of it, into my personal account. The bank representative questioned the timing, but I explained I was making changes to my financial arrangements due to unexpected life events. My hands shook, barely holding together, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down, suffocating. But I wasn't done yet. I logged into all our shared accounts, the honeymoon registry, the wedding website, the photographer's portal, and canceled everything. I'd set up autopay on my credit card for the venue deposit too, so I canceled that payment. Let her explain to her dream venue why the check bounced. Physical sensations became my language, a racing pulse, breath catching, chest tightening. The body remembers what words cannot. I even called her parents, who had always treated me like a son, and removed myself as a co-host for the rehearsal dinner. For years, I'd been the one they relied on to manage Eliza's expectations and calm her bridezilla moments. Not anymore. Let them handle their daughter's rage alone. My only response to her increasingly desperate messages was a single text, "Happy anniversary, failure." Then I blocked her number. What I didn't expect was how quickly word would spread through our friend group. My best friend Ryan reached out that evening, worried because he'd heard I was refusing visitors at the hospital. When I told him the truth about being abandoned after major surgery and Eliza's cruel message, his reaction stunned me. He was livid on my behalf. "She did what?" he had texted, followed by a flurry of shocked messages from our mutual friends. Apparently, Eliza had crafted quite a narrative about why she wasn't at the hospital. Now everyone knew the truth, and the support I received was overwhelming. Was this healing, or just another form of breaking? When I was discharged a week later, Eliza brought reinforcements, her sister, both parents, and 2 bridesmaids, probably thinking their presence would intimidate me into submission. They showed up at my apartment looking self-righteous and determined. "Alex, please, can we just talk this through?" Eliza started, her voice artificially gentle. I let them all in, watching as they arranged themselves around my living room like a tribunal about to pass judgment. Eliza tried to minimize everything. "I really didn't handle things well. It was just, the stress of seeing you like that." I panicked. Panicked? I couldn't help but laugh, though it pulled at my stitches. "Well, then you're going to love how I panicked while you were gone." I told them everything about selling the ring, emptying the wedding fund, and my final decision to cancel our entire wedding. The room descended into chaos. The room felt smaller, memories larger than the walls could contain. A universe of unresolved emotions condensed into this single, breathless moment. Eliza screamed about betrayal while her parents tried to talk about legal implications. Her bridesmaids alternated between comforting her and shooting accusatory glares at me. Even her sister tried to appeal to my better nature, but I barely registered her practiced attempts at manipulation. It was mayhem. The argument continued until my pain medication started wearing off and I finally had enough. I told everyone to leave before I called security. Eliza and her entourage stormed out, but Ryan, who had arrived midway through the confrontation, stayed behind to make sure I was okay. "Listen," Ryan said after things quieted down, "I have an idea. When you're fully recovered, why don't we take that trip to Colorado we've been talking about? The cabin's still available." "Let's get you past this," he added. I hesitated, thinking about the recovery ahead, but then Ryan smiled and said, "Come on, man, you deserve something good after all this." And so I agreed to the mountain retreat. We made arrangements for once I was cleared to travel, and here's the ironic part. We used my half of the honeymoon fund that I'd earmarked for Paris. When Eliza called a month later, sobbing about how she'd made a terrible mistake and wanted to reconcile, I sent a single photo, me standing on a mountain peak with the caption, "Found my better view. Goodbye, failure." Then I blocked her new number. What was left after love dissolved? Just these raw, electric fragments of feeling. We eventually made it to Colorado, and the solitude was exactly what I needed until I returned. My apartment had been broken into, my clothes slashed to ribbons, with "You shouldn't have taken my future" written in lipstick across my bedroom mirror. Eliza's final act of desperate revenge, but she miscalculated, terribly. The aftermath crushed her in ways she never anticipated. I had installed a security system after receiving several concerning emails from her, so I had high-definition footage of her entering my apartment with her spare key at 2 a.m. The video captured everything. Eliza methodically destroying my clothes with scissors, her sister keeping watch at the door, both of them taking selfies with their handiwork before writing their lipstick message. I didn't just file a police report, I made sure the evidence reached the right channels. Her startup's investors received anonymous tips about their newest entrepreneur's criminal behavior. Rising tech star arrested for breaking and entering after failed relationship. The security footage was submitted to the police, and soon her professional network witnessed the collapse of her carefully cultivated image. She was served with papers during an important investor meeting, the officers interrupting her pitch to hand her the restraining order and criminal complaint. Her potential investors watched silently as she fell apart, her professional demeanor crumbling as she was escorted from the building. The charges weren't minor. Breaking and entering, vandalism, destruction of property, and violation of medical privacy. When it was discovered, she'd been telling people false information about my condition. Her parents hired an expensive attorney, draining the funds they'd set aside for her sister's college tuition. The legal battle forced her to put her business on hold, and without my financial support, her startup quickly ran out of funding. Her designer business suits were replaced by increasingly desperate social media posts trying to save her company's reputation. Investors pulled out one by one, unwilling to associate with someone who had become a liability overnight. Within 6 months, she had to move back in with her parents, the same parents who had bragged about their daughter marrying up at every opportunity. They ended up canceling their anniversary cruise to cover her mounting legal costs. The irony lost on no one that they were sacrificing their celebration of love to deal with her destruction of one. The final blow came when she had to sell her luxury car to pay restitution for the damages to my apartment. Each payment she made was a reminder of what she'd thrown away, her financial independence eroding with every check she wrote. Our social circle completely realigned. Most friends sided with me, especially after seeing the footage and learning how she'd abandoned me immediately after surgery. Her bridesmaids stopped returning her calls, uncomfortable with how she'd manipulated them into participating in her version of events. Even her sister eventually reached out to apologize, admitting Eliza had always been self-centered, but she'd been too intimidated to stand against her. We're not friends, but there's a civil acknowledgement when we run into each other. Eliza tried to reconcile several times over the next year, sending elaborate gifts and tearful voice messages about how she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, and still loved me more than anything. I donated the gifts to charity and deleted the messages unheard. Some wounds, once inflicted, should never be reopened. These days, I'm rebuilding slowly but surely. The surgery was successful, and though recovery took longer than expected, my prognosis is excellent. The money that would have funded our life together now goes into my medical expenses and a foundation I started for patients without support systems. I've built a chosen family of friends and supportive colleagues who understand that loyalty isn't conditional on convenience. Sometimes Eliza still tries to reach out through mutual connections, usually when she's had too much to drink or her latest relationship has failed. I always send the same response through intermediaries. Happy anniversary, failure. It's harsh, perhaps, but it reminds me of how close I came to binding my life to someone who couldn't honor even the most basic commitment, and how much stronger I am for walking away. The hardest lesson wasn't discovering that the person I loved could be cruel. It was accepting that I deserved someone who would stay, especially when staying got difficult. Now I know my worth, and I'll never again settle for someone who sees me as disposable. As I trace the scar on my chest each morning, I'm reminded that some wounds heal stronger than the unbroken skin that came before. I am that scar now, more resilient, more authentic, and infinitely more aware of what real love should be.
Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear.